What's up, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of MCSC. And of course, as always, I'm your humble host, Niko House. I wanted to go ahead and knock out these two stories for you. I believe both of these stories are very important. One, dealing with the Israel and Palestine conflict. The other, dealing with the government's new snitching program, where they will not just deploy, I should say, the NSA as usual and all the alphabet agencies, but rather private institutions that can, well, more or less dodge accountability, at least at a constitutional level, or at least that's what their argument is, in order for them to spy on us without any legal reprieve. So first things first, man, this Israel-Palestine conflict is just getting disgusting, in my opinion. It's once again happening during a time where, like, we've seen a lot of events take place over the last year and a half, where now everyone is paying attention, is now hyper vigilant about major issues like this. When people used to ask me, why wouldn't you vote for Joe Biden? I said, because I don't want that blood on my hands. Joe Biden has already shown us how he's going to handle himself in Afghanistan, how he's going to handle himself in Iraq, in Africa, in Central and South America. And probably most of all, if you've looked at Joe Biden's history, he also showed us how he was going to act in regards to an apartheid Palestine and Israel situation. Which, by the way, I do find ironic, considering this is the same guy who lied. He lied and said that Nelson Mandela gave him an award because of his help to end the apartheid state in South Africa. So, but as we can see, based off of what we're seeing here, like everything else, that was just simply another lie, because Joe Biden has the power to fight an apartheid state right now. Not only is he not doing anything about it, based off of what we've seen so far, but in addition to not doing anything about it, he's actually exacerbating the situation and making it so that no one else can do anything about it either. So really quick, I wanted you all to check out this new piece that just came out on Al Jazeera, discussing how the United States just blocked the UN statement for not the first, not the second, but the third time this week, condemning what we have been seeing in Israel and Palestine. So it says a third United Nations Security Council emergency meeting in a week amid the deadly Israeli offensive in Gaza has again ended with no concrete outcome after the United States blocked a joint statement calling for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The meeting on Sunday came after the United States reportedly twice blocked over the last week resolutions that would have condemned Israel's military response and called for a ceasefire. Nearly 200 people, including 58 children, have been killed in the intense bombing of the besieged enclave of 2 million people. Israel justified its campaign as a retaliation to rocket attacks by Hamas fighters, but the Gaza-based Hamas movement said its actions were a response to the Israeli policy of forced displacement of Palestinians in occupied East Jerusalem and the storming of Al-Aqsa Mosque by Israeli forces last week. Israel had missed a Hamas deadline to withdraw its forces from the mosque compound. So, before we get into the nitty-gritty of that stuff, before we get into all that good stuff, I gotta say, people, at the end of the day, according to the United Nations, the same United Nations that Israel belongs to, the same United Nations, ladies and gentlemen, that the United States belongs to, according to that charter, any occupied territory has a right to defend itself from its oppressor, from the invader. I know that for some of you, you may have forgotten how Israel came to be, but my grandfather, God bless his soul, was older than the Israeli state is. They are, in fact, invaders who are aided by the West. This is not new. We know how the West loves arming basically the Caucasians of any given region against the indigenous of any given region, because I hate to break it to you, Ashkenazi Eastern European Jews are not native to the Palestinian region. I feel like I should have to explain this to people, but here we are. They basically overpowered them. Palestine did used to, quote unquote, belong to Great Britain. In other words, they were a victim of the empire of Great Britain. And then we needed a weapon in the West to replace what we lost in Iran. Because I don't know if a lot of you noticed, Iran used to be our, quote unquote, Israel. Not the West, but the Middle East, my apologies. But Iran used to be our Israel. And now Israel is our Israel. That is occupied territory and occupied land. Therefore, even if the mosque had not been taken over by Israeli forces, Hamas would actually still be perfectly justified in retaliating. That's how the cookie crumbles. It sucks that 10 Israelis died unnecessarily. And when I say unnecessarily, that includes 2 Israeli children. And when I say unnecessarily, it's because bilateral negotiations could have been taking place. All the West had to do is step in and make sure it happened. They were given a deadline to remove themselves from that mosque. Israel chose not to because Israel has a habit of provoking Hamas. What they want you to believe is that Hamas is just some violent terrorist organization that is just attacking Israel without warning, right? Without justification. And this is, coming from the same people that justified an assassination of a foreign general on someone else's soil. So, let's just take what they say with a grain of salt. But I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, if I were to believe that Hamas was merely some just terrorist organization without direction, that their only goal and aim is to commit violence, then I would have to believe that about Iran's military, just because the West said it. Because, right, isn't that what Trump said? Trump said that literally one of the largest militaries, one of the best militaries, most well-trained militaries in the entire world is a terrorist organization just because the U.S. doesn't like them. None of these things are true. You can't believe the West lies about Iraq, lies about Afghanistan, lies about Syria, lies about Bolivia, lies about what we do in Chile, lied about what we do in Honduras, lies and lies and lies. But just because you are Jewish or have some type of connection to the Israeli state, all of a sudden, all those lies, those aren't true. All those lies, we disregard those lies because Israel has a right to defend itself. Simply not true. They're not defending themselves. They have all the power. I always tell people, want to know how you know what's like, y'all be forgetting Israel and Saudi Arabia are on the same side. Saudi Arabia's royal family donated to Netanyahu's campaign. There's a reason you never see ISIS or Al Qaeda even attacking Israel. It ain't because their defense is just so strong and just nothing ever happens. No, because they got the directives. Their directives are to attack anti-authoritarian governments. That is not Israel. Israel is very much so an authoritarian, illegitimate, by the way, authoritarian regime. And so now that we got that out the way, let's go ahead and address this issue over here with Joe Biden in the United States going out of their way to block a resolution that would have at least condemned what we are seeing and calls for a ceasefire. It says, once again, a third United Nations Security Council emergency meeting in a week amid the daily Israeli offensive in Gaza has again ended with no concrete outcome after the United States blocked a joint statement calling for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Now, some of you may be wondering, why would they do something like that? That doesn't make any sense. If they're saying they want a ceasefire and they're saying they want peace between the two countries, why would they do that? Well, maybe it has something to do with this. Let's go ahead and check this part out. Power up. Biden administration approves $735 million in weapons sales to Israel, raising red flags for some House Democrats. Should be raising red flags for the entire world. You think this might have something to do with it? The Biden administration initially avoided calling for an immediate ceasefire and has said Israel has the right to defend itself against Hamas. Notice how they say that, but they never say that Palestine has the right to defend itself against Israel. You notice how they say Hamas and not Palestine, because if you say Palestine too much, it legitimizes the state of Palestine. Then of course, that gives way to the legitimization and the humanization of the Palestinian people. That's what they have to say Hamas, and then immediately attach the word terrorist organization to Hamas, so that you will think that this is all about them trying to attack Hamas. So if this is about attacking Hamas, why is it that 58 children and 59 children right now are dead? Why are y'all hitting everything but military installations? This isn't about Hamas. $735 million worth of weapons, and y'all want to play like Israel is the victim here? Come on, bro. A position that a majority in Congress has previously supported, but a new generation of House Democrats more open to questioning Washington supporting Netanyahu is raising some concerns. Some lawmakers want to know more about the proposed sale and its timing, suggesting it be used as leverage. Yeah, how'd that work out? In the past week, the Israeli military strikes have killed many civilians, almost exclusively civilians actually, and destroyed the building that housed the Associated Press, an American company reporting on the facts in Gaza. A Democratic lawmaker in the House of Foreign Affairs Committee told us, allowing this proposed sale of smart bombs to go through without putting pressure on Israel to agree to a ceasefire would only enable further carnage. Ladies and gentlemen, not only will it enable further carnage, that's the goal. Right? That's their goal. At the end of the day, and I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, which I understand. But at the end of the day, people, we see them preventing a resolution being introduced to condemn the ceasefire. We see the U.S. preventing this resolution being introduced in the United Nations, which, by the way, just further proof that the United Nations is a goddamn joke. We see them in the middle of Israel bombarding innocent people, approving weapon sales to Israel. That is killing hundreds of innocent people, dozens of innocent children. Listen, the United States, Joe Biden and his administration are not merely complicit in genocide. They're not merely complicit in apartheid. They're actively aiding genocide and apartheid. And this is not new. So I shouldn't be saying anything that could be, oh my God, what? The United States is aiding and abetting an apartheid state? Yeah, it's kind of what they do. How do you think South Africa got the way it got? Largely with the help of the United States. Why do you think Cuba was an apartheid state before Fidel took over? Because of the United States and the sugarcane cartel. Why do you think the white Cubans came here and the black Cubans stayed over there? Why do you think the United States works hand in hand with IDF? IDF comes to the U.S. to train our police forces, which we all acknowledge. Damn near acts as an apartheid police security force. I mean, that's where isn't that where they go hunting? They go goodwill hunting in our neighborhoods. We're just like Palestinians, we're not allowed to own anything, or at least we are only allowed to own very little. But at the end of the day, the city, the state, the government can come through and destroy whatever the hell they want to. And take whatever the hell they want to. Not dissimilar to what's happening right now in the Palestinian occupied territory. They're actively aiding and abetting genocide and apartheid. Period. Point blank. There's nothing to be debated. I don't know why we have to have these discussions, but apparently we do. Like I'm reading on my timeline that people are still defending once again, these are the same people who claim to be anti-establishment, but the moment an anti-establishment narrative or a pro-establishment narrative gets put out there by the establishment that is inconvenient for their feelings, all of a sudden we back the establishment narrative again. Oh God. Surprise, surprise. So continue to call out Joe Biden, continue to call out the United States, continue to call Israel. Continue to organize. I see a lot of y'all been out there organizing and protesting. Continue to do so, because this shit is unacceptable, bro. It's unacceptable. And I saw this really interesting piece about how a lot of black people have always, like black organizations and black thought leaders have always, stood out in front when it comes to making sure we defend the right of Palestinians, because obviously none more than us understand how just the rampage that an apartheid state backed by a Western imperialist regime. I don't know what else to call it, because I feel like it's a regime, because it isn't just the United States. It's all of them. All of them are giving Israel everything they want and could possibly need to wipe out an entire group of people. And using them as scapegoats too, because like, do they really need any more land? What do they really need? Israel doesn't need anything else. But in order to justify all the weapons that we're giving them, because we funnel weapons through them for us to use, we funnel intelligence through them, we get our intelligence from them. They have to pretend to be the victim so nobody questions all the money that they're getting to basically aid and abet the West and all of the atrocities that we commit overseas. I want to go ahead and just go ahead and check out this next story. You're gonna love this one. All right, so Biden plans expansion of Fed's army of snitches and dollars for collars program. Oh, sweet baby Jesus. Good thing we defeated communism. I'm not going to read all of this, but this is important, so we're going to read the first part. The Biden administration may soon recruit an army of private snoops to conduct surveillance that would be illegal if it had been done by federal agents, like they care, as part of its war on extremism. Oh, that's great. Whenever we wage wars on ideas, it always turns out well for innocent people. We totally never get caught up in the crossfire. God forbid you're fighting on the right side, because then you're screwed. The Department of Homeland Security may exploit a legal workaround to spy on and potentially entrap Americans who are perpetuating the narratives of concern, CNN reported last week. Not incorrect narratives, not false narratives, not fake narratives, not fake news, not lies, but narratives of concern. And by narratives of concern, I probably should let everybody know that it's probably the truth. Oh man, I just ordered some food, y'all, and my food already here. I can't believe it. He's supposed to drop it off at my door. Got me up here texting him in the middle of my video. It's cool though. But not narratives of, like, not lies, but it's likely that those narratives are the narratives of the truth, to be honest with you. Now, it said but federal informant programs routinely degenerate into dollars for collars schemes that reward scoundrels for fabricating crimes that destroy the lives of innocent Americans. The DHS plan on... Hold on one second, y'all. I don't understand what the point of leaving directions if people don't want to follow them. Anyway. But yeah, so the DHS plan would allow for the department to circumvent constitutional and legal limits on surveillance of private citizens and groups. Federal agencies are prohibited from targeting individuals solely for First Amendment protected speech and activities, but federal hirelings would be under no such restraint. Private informants could create false identities that would be problematic if done by federal agents. So this once again goes to the water is wet. This is wild. This is wild because although the seriousness of these actions should not be underestimated, the reality is the NSA or the Proud Boys get arrested 2 days before the January 6th. By the way, create and sow discord so that people would just be so freaked out that this shit. But Tario wasn't an informant. They're already doing it. The NSA has been doing excuse me. Now the question for a lot of people would be is a thing. They want to make that a thing. War on terrorism isn't really working out all that well. I believe in a war in Iraq, and if your whole stuff was the war on terrorism, and the war on terrorism isn't a hot seller anymore, then you have to come up with something else. And the war on extremism just happens to be it. Which is why, for some reason, you know, DC is kind of occupied by the National Guard and police officers right now, and everybody's kind of cool with it for whatever reason. Like, that's not a weird thing, but it is still weird. It's still weird. They want to make you think that extremism is as big as a problem as our federal government is. And they want you to give them all you can't be safe without the federal government taking all your rights away. But also, and more importantly, what you're seeing right now is an attempt to turn you against your neighbor. Like you said, or like I said, I should say, it's a good thing we defeated communism, guys. Good thing. Because otherwise, you might see the federal government employing private citizens to snitch on their neighbors to the KGB. See, for people who think that we're a communist country, we don't snitch on our neighbors to the KGB. We snitch on our neighbors to the CIA. Duh. Idiots. That's how you know we're not communists. Get your letters straight. Because if it was the KGB, then it would be a problem. But since it's the CIA, it's patriotic. You're just, you're just doing what you can. No, I believe that we are the caricature of communism that everybody swears they're trying to avoid. The caricature, I mean. Not the actual communism, but the caricature of communism that everybody's trying to avoid. We are it. We got to get a permit to collect rainwater in your own yard. You live in the caricature of a communist country. And what they're trying to do is to get you to snitch on your neighbors. Because at the end of the day, they're more working class. There are more average, quote unquote, citizens than there are elite. And in order for their plans to work, we have to be a house divided. In order for them to get away with what they get away with, they have to divide us. They have to get us to attack each other. They have to get us to fight against one another. They have to get us to distrust each other. At least that's my belief. But I mean, isn't that history? The empire, regardless of whether or not it's the United States, the entire Western Empire, no matter what, even when you have a situation with all white people, they're like, yeah, man, but them Irish over there, they not like the rest of us. Get them. So even in scenarios like that, they have to divide in order for them to maintain their empire. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it is what it is. That's what they do. So what I would encourage you all to do, and I've been seeing a lot of efforts behind the scenes to try and do this, build community, look out for each other, rely on each other instead of relying on this government that doesn't I mean, the government literally wants to kill you. They literally don't care if you die. I don't know how else to say that. You have a situation right now in North Carolina where my best friend's brother is in the hospital because North Carolina is disallowing the prescription of ivermectin. Because they for no reason. Because they just want to encourage people to take the vaccine. If you don't take the vaccine, they just believe you deserve to die. That's where we're at right now. They don't care. Now they don't care if you die. In some cases, they seem to welcome the idea of us being dead. But your neighbors are the ones who are going to look out for you. Your community is the one that's going to take care of you. And that's what they're trying to break down. Because the NSA they don't care, bruh. The NSA, the CIA, since when do they need to abide by the law when it comes to illegal spying? They've never had to. And I believe it was actually Glory Jones from Slow News Day who originally made this point, is that they're just trying to get us to turn against each other. And that's what this whole thing, and this isn't starting 2020, starting 2021. Really, I mean, it's historically it's been a thing, but when you're talking about just in the form that we've seen today, that shit started the moment that Trump came into office. It was us against them, the good guys versus the Trump guys. And I'm sure for the Trump people, a lot of them felt the same way about us, at least the leftists, the real leftists. And then we had to tell them, y'all, we not the problem. We don't believe Russiagate either. And they were like, oh, word. And then if we got caught associating with each other, it's a problem now. Even though we're like, yeah, I don't agree with everything that this politician says. Well, I don't agree with everything this politician says. So why are we fighting with each other? They told us to. So you began seeing them try to turn us against each other so that no one would ever figure out that the real enemy was the federal government, that the real enemy was the empire. And this is just a continuation of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't let them. Keep calling out this bullshit. Keep taking care of each other. Keep showing up to support each other. Keep getting out to the streets. I see a lot of people, like I said, marching. I don't see a lot of people talking about this type of stuff, though. I know that, here at the MCSC network with Slow News Day and Combo Couch and Frank and all like shit, it's damn near all we talk about because for some reason nobody wants to talk about it on the left. I see a lot of people on the right concerned about these issues, but I don't see enough on the left concerned about these issues, and we need to be. Because to be, for selfish reasons, for selfish purposes, usually when these laws get implemented, it's the black people they come after first, y'all. I don't know if y'all know that shit. So I would prefer if this type of shit got called out, because I'm probably going to be like the first one they could carry out the damn house. You don't have to go through 6 cats and a dog to get me up out of this bitch. But, I'm going to make it a fight for them. But I would rather not have to do that. I'd rather just call out this shit first. All right? Is that cool with y'all? Because it's cool with me. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I got some pollo tropical in the living room that I'm about to throw down on. Appreciate you all stopping by. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to share this video. And more than anything else, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.